Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas. On this, I want to make sure I get this one right. Wednesday, October the 8th, and joining us, as we always do every week, is our good friend Bill Katz, the editor of Urgent Agenda, and Bill is right there to my right. that that little circle there, that's Bill. But Bill, welcome. It's great to have you, even if you're just a little circle today.
Pleasure to be here on a week which, of course, has no news at all. I mean, nothing is
No,
happening.
No, of course, and it's been such a bad week for news that we're going to take a second here and remember a baseball story that you remember quite well, and that was on this day back in 1956. Don Larsen pitched the only World Series perfect game, and it would happened in New York. The Dodgers, your Brooklyn Dodgers, were playing the Yankees in one of their many encounters in the 1950s, and Don Larsen pitched a perfect game, and I think somebody made a great play. Maybe Mickey Mantle made a great play in that game to save the no hitter or the perfect game. But any memories of that? Do you have any memories of that game?
Yes, I do. I was in high school, and it was you you we had gym class as we did on many days that we went to our gym class, and the old philosopher. Every school has an old coach.
Yes.
Well, some would say this is luck, and some would say this is skill. But wherever it is, you'll remember this day for that one hit, and that was it. And we remember that day for the one hit. After that, baseball seemed to take a plunge. Don Lawson's career, as you pointed out, did not go well, sadly, and he is not even in the Hall of Fame.
No.
And even more dramatic than that, the Brooklyn Dodgers were no more
Mm.
within the 2 years. They,
That
they were gone to Los Angeles, and as far as I was concerned, as a spectator, young spectator, baseball ended.
right.
Who
Well,
knows? The world may have ended. I don't know.
well, there were many Dodgers fans, and I guess Giants fans too, who felt that way because both teams left, as you know, and they went to the West Coast. But yes, Don Larson, who pitched that game for the Yankees, was a not much of a star. In fact, he wasn't a star at all. Why he was even starting a World Series game, I bet somebody must have asked Casey Stengel that question because why are you starting this guy? But after his success with the perfect game, he stuck around a bit with the Yankees, and then he ended up in expansion teams, and that was the end. I mean, he had a really lackluster career, but I think it's what makes maybe every sporting event or every sport so interesting that there's one day that in your life where you excel. And
Yes.
in the case of Don Larson, who's passed away by now, that was the one day in his life that he did something nobody had done before. Nobody has done it since. I mean, it must have been a remarkable day there at the park that day. And it must have been even more remarkable for millions of people listening to it on the radio, which was the main attraction back then. I think Vince Scully was calling that game, if my memory is correct. But anyway, it must have been quite a game. And the people living there in New York, I don't know. I always, when I think of those Dodgers days and the Giants and New York, I think of a bunch of people in apartment buildings sitting in the balcony listening to the game. Was that pretty close?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, being a New Yorker, when we had three ball teams, the New York Yankees, the New York Giants, and the Brooklyn Dodgers. In my life, we had one ball team, which was the Dodgers. The others were simply supplements that put it on, and you really felt you were part of it. I mean,
Yeah.
if you were a Brooklyn Dodger fan, even if you weren't living in Brooklyn, at some point you did.
Right.
At some point, or you passed through, or you had a hot dog there, but felt so much a part of that team. And then, of course, a year later, when it left New York for Los Angeles, the letdown was not only about baseball; it was about an institution and about our identity.
Right.
Life was never the same. But the Dodgers gone. I mean, it was they a ball team was spiritual. It wasn't just athletic; it was
Right.
spiritual.
Well,
And
especially a community like Brooklyn that
oh
had
yes,
so many ethnic groups. And the one thing, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the one thing that brought everybody together was the Dodgers. I mean, these were people from different backgrounds, and it was baseball that Americanized many of them. And the idea of going to Ebbets Field, I mean, I've read about that Boys of Summer, that great book,
yes,
uh, fantastic book about. It's more than a baseball book, I think. I think it's a book about Brooklyn too.
oh yes. I
And
I I knew Roger Kahn,
yeah, and
the
it's a great
writer.
book for anybody who wants to. I read it in an airplane ride, that book many years ago. And I recommend that book to anybody who just wants to, not just learn about baseball. You don't have to be a baseball fan to love that book. It was really about the city of Brooklyn and the unique love affair
Oh yes,
with the Dodgers. Of course, they left, and baseball was never the same in Brooklyn. But there is, before we go on to the more serious stuff of the week, there's an interesting connection. You mentioned that everybody went through Brooklyn. Well, one Cuban player did, and his
yeah.
name was Sandy
Sandy
Amaro.
Amorose, absolutely.
And I remember my father talking about that because in 1955 he made that great catch for the Dodgers to win the series, their one and only series beating of the Yankees. And I just remember my father talking about it. And even though I have to, I hope I don't spoil your evening, but
No,
most Cuban fans were actually Yankee fans, or at least of my dad's generation. They were either Yankee fans or Cincinnati Reds fans, and that was because I guess the first Cuban player played for Cincinnati or something, and so
yeah.
that's where the attraction came. But yes, I'll never forget Sandy Amoros. Sandy Amoros, who made. I saw him play in Cuba when he was a veteran. This is before he
Hmm.
left. So anyway, great connection to this day. Uh, October the 8th, 1956. Don Larsen's perfect game, and I guess only someone like you, Bill, would find this really charming or interesting.
I am sitting here wearing my Brooklyn Dodger cap.
All right. All right. Well, I really I am delighted that you put that one on
Yes.
because that just gives more spirit to the conversation. Well, we got a lot of serious things to get into, and let's begin the second anniversary of October 7th and what's become of it. There are some negotiations going on in Gaza right now. We're being told that it's going well. It probably is, but how do you see it, Bill? How do you see all this stuff going on? I mean, I guess I have to say up front that I don't trust the people we're negotiating with. So if Trump can do it, he should not only win the Nobel Peace Prize, but he should win 5 of them, Bill.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up. I don't know if even if this comes through and peace is brought to the Middle East, I don't know if he will be given the Nobel Peace Prize. We have to remember the Nobel Peace Prize is a political prize. It's not a real Nobel Prize. It's done in Norway, and that during the Reagan administration, when the Cold War was brought to an end, Reagan did not get the Nobel Peace Prize. Margaret Thatcher did not. Even Pope John Paul II did not. They gave the Nobel Peace Prize to Gorbachev, the Russian leader, and it was considered just outrageous that this could happen. But it is a prize given in Norway, not in Sweden, where the real Nobel prizes are given, and it is given by a team in Norway uh, that is related to Norwegian politics. And the
Right.
feeling was that it wasn't given because they didn't like Ronald Reagan.
Well, they didn't like George. They didn't like, I guess, Bush either because they gave
Yeah.
it. Well, not Bush, but they gave it to Obama in
Yes.
2009, and they gave it to Obama, I guess, because he won the election.
Yes,
Uh,
that was it. That was the year that they gave the Nobel Peace Prize when he was in office for 2 days. And it
right.
was really a complete farce. It was all
It was,
political.
and in fact, I remember somebody saying that Obama often was embarrassed by the fact that he had that Nobel Peace Prize. That if you notice, he never mentioned it that much.
Yes.
It's like he never went around saying, "Well, I won the Nobel Peace." I mean, he almost didn't mention it.
Well,
because
he
I
knew
think,
he
yeah,
knew he didn't earn it. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, what did he do to earn that other than, I
he
guess,
should.
defeat McCain? That was the only thing that,
Yes,
and they probably didn't like McCain. They
yeah.
probably didn't like McCain any more than they hate him, and they didn't like George W. Bush. But anyway, negotiations are underway. I'm optimistic, as I'm always optimistic in the Middle East. But Bill, it is the Middle East.
It is the Middle East, and we're dealing with Hamas, which is I wish the reporters would remind the audience more often that Hamas is a division of Iran. Hamas isn't even a Middle East organization. It is. They are. The bosses are in Tehran. They have this subdivision called Hamas, and they are the ones who are largely responsible for this. But for some reason, it just doesn't register that way. From what I see from the news and from other sources that I have, and I have a few very good ones on Iran, is that there is a guarded optimism. And
Mm-hmm.
they make the point that even if this phase goes well, which is the release of the hostages, that does not guarantee anything down the line. And I think you know the president, whom I admire in many respects, has quite a mouth. We know that, and uh, he has presented this as something that, if it succeeds, will change the Middle East forever. Well, forever is a long time,
Right.
and he constantly makes these remarks. We are very close. We have never been closer. Well, very close is like saying you're in the ninth inning and you're only behind by
Right.
1 point, and you never get the point.
Right.
Uh,
And the run is in second base with nobody out. That would
that's
be
right.
pretty close.
Yes, and uh, this is a wait and see time.
Yeah.
It is possible that there could be a great breakthrough, because really the only people preventing that breakthrough through are Hamas and its leaders
Right.
in Tehran, and of course, should it be vetoed by Bibi Netanyahu. I think Bibi wants this deal because I think it dawned on him that if he is seen in history as preventing it, he will be seen negatively. He's seen negatively already by many people, but that will burn it in. I think he wants to stand next to Trump when Trump signs the agreement.
Right. And he probably wouldn't mind sharing the Nobel Peace Prize either with
I
Trump.
I don't know if they're going to do that.
No, no, I know. If yeah, I get you. It's probably more difficult for Bibi to get it than Trump.
Yes.
I mean, I just can't see a lot of those Europeans who want to recognize the so-called Palestine state. Somebody has to point out to me where that is.
Well, yes.
I have no idea. How do you recognize a state that? Well, last time I checked, I don't even think they have a telephone company, but that's okay.
No, many people don't realize that the term Palestine isn't even a Middle Eastern term; it's a
That's
Roman
right.
term, and the, well, they could recognize, for example, some diplomat or a group of diplomats. They could even recognize the people who have now recognized Palestine and give them the Nobel Prize. But I think they're going to. I think if they are forced to consider Trump, it will be one of those over our dead body situations.
Well, it'll
Uh,
be if they will only give it to Trump if he shares it with somebody else. I mean, it'll be
yes,
like this international committee that gets the award or something.
yeah,
But you know what? I know they're not going to give it to Macron because he doesn't have a prime minister. It seems like every 3 days
yes,
he has a different prime minister every 3 days. So I mean, Macron would have a difficult time putting together a travel committee because
yeah, yeah.
he doesn't have a.
Or
But
they can ignore the Middle East entirely,
or
and
they can give it to Kamala Harris. I mean, you never know.
yes,
They can
yes,
give it to Kamala Harris or Joe Biden and say that they did so much
yeah,
for the region. I mean, these people are crazy who give out these awards. I think they are. I mean, they
yes, they
certainly.
are.
As I say, once they gave it to Obama, I thought that was the moment they basically traded in all their integrity and became nothing more than well, I don't know, whatever they became, but they
Well,
were no longer a
they're local Norwegian politicians.
right,
And that's
exactly.
the problem. It's not given the same way the real Nobel Prizes are given. The story of the Nobel Peace Prize is that it was given on someone's suggestion to Alfred Nobel because was the inventor of dynamite. And they
Mm,
said, "Wouldn't you want to also do something for peace?" And he said, "Yeah, it's not a bad idea." He was probably in his limousine at the time
right.
when he made the decision, and that's why we have a Nobel Peace Prize. Um,
Well, I would argue that whoever invented dynamite probably kept more peace than the people, because when you have dynamite, you can at least, you have to be strong to keep the peace. I guess that's
that's
my
right.
point.
That's right.
As George Washington said, keep your powder dry. I think it was him who said that. But
Yeah, well,
but I mean, whoever.
he's actually said, if you want peace, prepare for war.
That's it. That's what he
Yeah,
said. Yeah, that's exactly what he said, and maybe that's what they were thinking about with
yeah,
dynamite. If you want to keep peace, make sure your enemies know you have dynamite that you can use
that's
against them,
right.
because that has a way of at least encouraging a little bit more seriousness. But I I I've always been, I guess I've only seen 25 conflicts in the Middle East since I can remember, and it seems like it never goes away, and you look for the best option you can. You support Israel, although Israel has taken quite a beating in PR. But I think that's with a lot of young people who are being indoctrinated very badly in
Oh
our
yes,
schools. I
oh
really
yeah.
do. I really do. But anyway, I think somebody suggested to Greta. Remember Greta, the young woman? Somebody
Yeah,
suggested to
Greta, is
Greta.
that the one? Yeah, another
Yeah, so,
Norwegian.
yeah. Well, somebody suggested to Greta that after she's done with all the climate change stuff, that she should go to Palestine and do a march, gays for Palestine.
Yeah, you're right. Yes, yes,
And let's see
yes.
how successful that. I mean, if they didn't kick her out now, I'm sure they're going to kick her out back
Yes.
when she does that. Well, another big topic, Bill, you mentioned we had a lot of news. One big one is the shutdown. And my feeling is when I look at the shutdown, I look at those both sides, I really do. And I say, how is it possible you two guys cannot negotiate? But we know the politics. But now the Democrats have introduced Obamacare, which I have no idea why that is. There's nothing to do with Obamacare. That's a totally separate issue, Bill.
Well, the Democrats have nothing to do with governing. I mean, they I don't even know if they're a political party anymore. They certainly don't act like one,
No,
and they're just so filled with hatred and so filled with the some of the leftist crowd who really have not gotten beyond the 1960s.
that's right.
I
That's
think
right.
if this goes through and there is a peace agreement in the Middle East, I think many people around the world will cheer it. I think the Democratic Party will say it was either bought or paid for, or it has to do with race or this or that. Um, this is I think it is probably the best opportunity that we have had to bring peace to the Middle East since the formation of Israel in 1948. It
Hmm.
looks real because so many nations are on board and they're
Right.
on board with the same agreement. But anything in the Middle East can go wrong.
Right. Well, that's right. And that's right. And we can thank the Abraham Accords, I think, for bringing a lot of those countries
I think
together.
so. Yeah.
I think that was a great. He should have won the Nobel for that.
Yes.
That was quite an achievement. But now the Democrats are screaming about Obamacare, that we have to do something about Obamacare. And look, I remember when Obamacare came out, Bill. I'm sure you do too. And we were told back then that it was going to be affordable. That was
Yes.
that was the first thing. It was going to be affordable. It was intended for people who, let's say, couldn't buy group insurance, or individual business people or self-employed people or whatever. It was intended for people who couldn't afford premiums, and then, of course, pre-existing conditions, people with that last one was very legitimate in my viewpoint, because there were many people who couldn't get it because of pre-existing conditions. So I thought, okay, well, it didn't. I didn't like Obamacare, but at least let's give it a shot. I mean, let's try it. And it really hasn't worked, Bill. It's not affordable.
That's the problem.
And at some point, you have to say, how many more subsidies are you going to throw at this, Bill?
Well, that's absolutely right. And if that is the issue that brings down this whole uh, medical world that we're in, maybe we should say, well, better now than later, and now let's do a real Affordable Care Act.
Right. And I don't know if you remember back in the McCain Obama campaign in '08, and McCain suggested back then, and I thought it was an excellent idea. It wasn't his original idea, but it was his campaign topic. He said, let's have tax credits for people through taxes. You give everybody a tax credit if they need one. Number two, let's create a special pool where we put people who have pre-existing conditions so that they're not denied coverage, but you separate them from the regular pool.
Yes.
And then, of course, for people who are poor, let's give them subsidies or whatever. I always thought that was a much more rational way to go, because the government got in the business of helping people get insurance rather than in the business of creating these things, whatever they're called, where you buy the insurance. And it's like we're down to two plans right now.
Right.
Very expensive and super expensive. That's all you got.
Yes.
I was talking to a young man at church the other day, Bill. Young family, small kids. His deductible is like $5,000, and his out of pocket is like $15,000.
Yeah.
So he has to spend like $15,000 out of his own pocket before it kicks in. He was considering not getting anything, just basically taking a chance that he'll just finance whatever he has to pay, Bill.
Well, I know many stories like that. You can get killed by the deductible. The deductible is so high that you can't pay it. And in what way is that good insurance? But that was what they shoved down the throats of the American people. It was not Obamacare, really, because Obama had nothing to do with it. It was all done by Congress and by
Right.
the Democratic Party in Congress. But
Right.
they named it Obamacare for some reason. I don't even remember the reason.
Well, it was they called it the Affordable Care Act, but it became Obamacare politically, I think, maybe
Yes.
more than anything else. Yeah.
Yes,
Uh,
and it's not it has done some good, but the fact of the matter is that there are now other programs that people can probably get into on a state level that do a better job.
well, and that was the other argument that I had against Obamacare, was nationalizing healthcare. That I
Yes,
always thought it would be like you suggested. I remember there was a state representative or state senator here in Texas who suggested that you could have like a regional plan,
yes,
Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, and you could have like 5 or 6 states, somewhat similar, come together and have like a regional insurance plan, and then maybe New York and New Jersey would do the same, that kind of thing, and it would be run by the states. It's always more efficient when it's run by the
oh
states
yeah,
anyway. But it's become a problem, and I'm not even. I mean, people say, "Oh, these people are going to be left without subsidies," and I guess they're all going to die, which is that they always tell us that everybody's going to die.
oh yes,
I don't
oh
think
absolutely,
I don't think they're going to die. What's going to happen is they're going to get a bill they cannot pay,
yes.
and then they're going to maybe shop for something else, or maybe pay out of their own pockets. I don't know how they're going to do it.
I don't. Maybe they won't do it. Maybe they'll get an envelope from the government says if you choose death, please contact us because there are subsidies available.
Right, or maybe life insurance policies
Yes.
for but it's become such a disaster, Obamacare, that I don't see any solution for it, Bill. I'm not trying to be harsh. I just don't see any solution for it. I know so many young people. There's another lady at our church I remember years ago, and she was complaining about Obamacare, and I said, well, "What's the problem?" She goes, "Well, I'm 60 years old and I have to pay for maternity, and I'm not expecting a baby
Oh,
or planning
yes.
to have a baby anytime soon. I'm 60 years
Isn't
old."
that, isn't that remarkable? I mean, well, that's also true on some other policies where they force you to buy maternity care. I
Yeah.
mean, no matter how old you are. But
And this lady was saying, Bill, that before Obamacare, um, this lady's a widow, if I remember correctly. But before Obamacare, she just had an individual plan with a high deductible that took care of her. But now she has maternity, and she also has mental illness coverage, and she's got all of these social justice coverage,
Yes.
and I'm none of it she needs, but that's what it's become, Bill.
Well, maybe it will go down fighting, and that during the Trump administration, because I'm sure that the Trump people have some kind of a better plan in mind. I mean, and
I hope so.
but Congress will not let it happen if Trump is still in office.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's the politics of it, having all those people without subsidies, and like they say, who are going to die, which I don't believe that's the case, but that's what they tell us. But I do think that what I think President Trump should propose at the next State of the Union a whole new plan and say we're going to be dumping Obamacare and this is what we're replacing it with. But you can't do it from one day to the other. It's got to
Right.
be gradual. But but anyway, we'll see how it goes. But I keep hearing all these Democrats who are saying that the Republicans want to take away their health
Well,
insurance.
that's the standard Democratic strategy. They are always scaring people. Scare tactics are their specialty.
That's
If
right.
you don't elect us, you know what's going to happen. And that specialty, by the way, was invented at the local level. Back in the old boss days and local machine days, they would go to people and say, Mrs. McClure, if we don't get elected, you're going to lose your your traffic light, because that's what they want. They want to take it away from you, and you'll be walking home in the dark. And we
Right.
don't think that's right. You don't think that's right, do you, Mrs. McClure? And that's what it was, always a scare tactic.
Right. And it worked, I guess.
Yeah,
It worked, I guess. But anyway, we'll see what happens. But another thing too, Bill, they keep citing all these polls saying that the public believes this side is responsible. I've never believed those polls.
yeah,
I just think that they're very politicized. And I mean, do people actually sit there talking about this saying it's the terrible Republicans who shut this down, or I mean, I don't think people do that. I
I
really
don't
don't.
think they really do. They don't know much about a showdown, showdown, a shutdown, and for the most part, it is not yet affecting the average American. If it started affecting them, they'd suddenly talk. But it's such an obscure and area of government. Shutdowns are not common. They're actually quite rare. And I think they're probably saying, well, they'll get they'll solve this before the congressmen and senators themselves are affected, and
That's
they might be right on that.
that's right. Well, one last story this week, Bill. We learned that special counsel, I guess that's still his name or title, or used to be his title, Jack
Jack
Smith,
Smith, yeah.
was apparently, again, the story, I don't have all the details, but the accusation is that he was tapping or listening or wanted to get information about phone calls of
Yes.
some Republican senators, and they're not too happy. I've seen some interviews, and these guys are not too happy with this.
Yes.
This may have been Jack Smith's biggest mistake in retrospect.
Well, yeah, and it was done during the Biden administration, and Biden claims he knows nothing about it. I don't. He knows nothing about anything. But it was, if true, and again, we always have to say allegedly.
Right.
But if true, it was an outrage. I mean, the Congress, the president, and the executive branch are two separate branches. The idea that something like this could happen, and it could happen under very bad circumstances. If you're tapping the line of a United States senator, it could be during a bad international situation in which he is caught on the line saying something that could be easily misinterpreted. Very, very bad deal. We know that the Democrats were resorting to a lot of bad practices back in those days, and I imagine still are in certain respects. But it's an absolute outrage, and whoever did this should serve a prison term.
Well, I think, from what I understand, Mr. Smith will be before the Senate soon,
Yes.
because I'm sure they want to look into it. And they should look into it. I mean,
Yeah, of
I
course they
think this is a
should.
very serious thing. And, I don't know. I mean, I even heard one of the Republican senators saying that they could actually take action on their own against him, civil
Yes,
suits they were
as an
calling.
independent branch of government, they could, and the offense was made against Congress. So
Right.
yes, they could take action on their own, and I hope they do.
I hope they do too. But Bill, you mentioned about President Biden, how much he knew. The tragedy of the Biden presidency is he probably did not know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's very sad, really, when you think about it, that the president of the United States probably didn't know that. I mean, he probably didn't know a lot of stuff that was being done on his behalf, the pardons, and now we hear information that they were hiding information about Ukraine and his family or
Yes.
something. I mean, this
Yes.
this is all very serious stuff, and you really have to wonder if he even knew what was going on. I'm going to tell you, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't really, Bill.
Well, considering his physical condition and the fact that he could walk around and not know where he was, it's possible that he was not even capable of understanding it because of his physical condition, or they misled him. Somebody could have easily in the White House misled him. We don't even know who was running that White House. It
Right.
certainly wasn't Kamala Harris.
That's
Because
we're not
she
even sure she was running her campaign.
well, or the vice presidency. I mean, I think
Yeah, I know. It's really, but what's sad. I mean, you're right. He could have been misinformed. Maybe he was shown a document, and he said, "What am I signing?" And he said, "Oh, you're applying for a membership in the latest Visa card or something." That
Yes, that's right. Yes, and Mr. President, it isn't really your signature anyway. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of it with that machine over there.
yeah, you really wonder. I mean, that's very sad. I think that all, and I guess all of it is going to come out, but you know, it's very. I think it's very embarrassing for the
It is for a
family.
great country like this to be in a situation, and
And
he did damage in the Middle East.
yes, and in a lot of places, unfortunately. But I think it's embarrassing for his wife that she would allow something like this to go on, that she wouldn't step in, sometime in 23 and say, hey, guys, look, we love Joe, but he's not up to it. We got to
Right.
get him out. I'm not saying resign the office, but at least prepare the field for a replacement, a more positive way to replace him. So, I mean, it is amazing to me that it took that debate with Trump to turn this thing around. It's really
Yes.
incredible, incredible to me that it did. Well, Bill, other than Don Larsen pitching a perfect game, any other Brooklyn Dodger memory? Well, that wasn't really a good memory for the Dodgers, but it was
No,
a good baseball memory.
it was
It was a great memory. But thank you so much, as always, Bill, for
my
joining
pleasure,
us.
and
And
go ahead.
we'll be back next week.
We will, and we may have a lot of very important news next week because there has got to be some breakthrough in the Middle East talks for Trump to continue to go along with them.
Yes, and he is sending signals that he does have a timetable.
Yes, he said. Let's see if those signals are real. That's one of the things we should talk about next time. Is about
Yeah,
his method of doing this. Well, that
right.
that is up for grabs, and some of the other things that are up for grabs are pretty much every item on the agenda in Washington.
That's right. Well, Bill, have a great day, and we'll talk again.
Absolutely. Thank you, Silvio.
All right. Our good friend Bill Katz, the editor of Urgent Agenda, joining us today for our weekly review of the news. We talked about the situation of October 7th and the whole situation with Gaza, the shutdown madness. The Democrats are trying to make this about Obamacare. Has nothing to do with Obamacare. Obamacare is a separate topic, as they like to say, separate issue. And Obamacare has to be redone. I don't know how else to say it. It has to be redone. You can still keep some of the provisions like pre-existing conditions and subsidies for some people, but it got completely out of control, Obamacare, and that is the reality of it. And we also mentioned, I made a crack about France, and I have a post over at the American Thinker today talking about France and the fact that the president there cannot find the prime minister because he names the prime minister, and I don't know, 24 hours later, somebody else comes up. So it's a little crazy. If you think our politics is crazy, check out what's going on in France. Thank you for listening. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.